gotta, for all the people out there, welcome to the Broski Doodles podcast. It's your boy Kiko Flow, Kiko Cervantes, DJ PJ on the other side of the screen, all the way from Miami, Florida. I don't even know how we're talking right now because I always feel like I'm in the future, right? Because I'm in the future. I'm like 6 hours in front, but somehow technology is able to connect us on a weekly basis to talk about, different topics. How you been, DJ?
Here chilling, bro. New year, new me. I'm trying to think of things that I need to do to better myself and, working out. Trying to, level up in my job, getting to zero, getting a better status. And one of the things that came to mind was, educating myself. You gotta educate yourself to get to the next level. You gotta train, you gotta do some things before you can jump to the next level. And one of the things that came to mind was reading, reading books. I hear it's very popular among people, but I can't see myself per se picking up a book on my own free time and reading it. Most of the time when I used to read was because I had to fill a quota for school. So I don't know, what's a good way that I can try to incorporate that into my life,
The more reading, right?
Right.
Because it is true that reading seems to be like a lost art. Mm-hmm. Like the elders will tell you about these times that, we used to, get collections of text and read them for fun, and people like, oh shit, for real. It's like the elder,
One of my uncles from the DR back in the day, he would just pick up a dictionary and learn 5 words a day or something like that. He'd just pick it up and read 5 words.
Okay. Everybody's got to start somewhere,
but who does that? Obviously that motherfucker is eloquent as fuck. He knows how to talk. So,
My bad. I thought he didn't know words.
No.
He was trying to find even crazier words.
Exactly.
Right. What an idiot I am. That's what happens.
That's what
you gotta read more. You gotta read more. No, but I got a solution for you. And actually, you come with a subject that's actually quite dear to my heart because I'm an owner of many books, but I've read very few of them. I don't read much, but I like to think that I'm gonna read one day. Mm-hmm. I don't really buy books of fiction. I don't like fiction, and I wouldn't say what I have are self-help books because I don't like that either, but more like life philosophy type shit where I have a few books for by Jordan Peterson. I have a few by Robert Greene, the powers of the laws of powers, the laws of seduction. I have a few by some Russian writers, Solzhenitsyn. The Gulag Archipelago, that's one that I have.
I saw the other day in the background you had The Art of War.
Oh.
By Donald Trump?
By Donald Trump? Art of War, I had it? Oh, yeah. I have it, but I don't know. I wouldn't have had it behind me. But, yeah, Art of War, I've read it. That's a Chinese one, I think. No, for real. But it's pretty good. I mean, sorry, it's not that good, at least in my depiction. But, yeah, I have a few things like that. What else do I got that I've... Oh, Thomas Sowell. He's an economist, 93 years old. And he's super good at knowing how money works, how economy works, and explaining it in a way that's very simple. All his books talk about very complex economic theories, but he doesn't use any graphs or any number type shit. He wants to explain it in the easiest form for people to hear it. So
right, and I'm shaking my head and agreeing with you, looking at you, saying if I know who any of these people are, I have no idea.
That's fine, but for the listeners, I mean, Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, yes, because we talked about him, but not because I've read any of the material.
Well, but you never seen a video by Jordan Peterson?
Yes, also.
Okay,
but is that also part of the book? Does he talk about his book?
I mean, it is sort of like his philosophy and shit.
Philosophy, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Which is not bad. It's good. At this stage, I mean, we kind of sometimes laugh at JP because these days, me and Adrian, we follow him a little bit more. He is evolving into a kind of a character. But I mean, he's like, I like him as a person. He seems like a good human being, and he said very true facts in the past. But anyways, I'm just here giving a little context for people that listen. Maybe you read some of these things.
Okay.
So what I wanted to get to is, these days you have, because of technology and because of the advancement of our economy and the different products that are offered by companies, you actually have what's called audiobooks, right? I mean, it's not necessarily a new concept, but it is true that in the recent years is when it's become more commercialized, to the point where almost any book that's created has an audiobook format, because in the past, not many of them offered it. So now they offer it, and it's fucking great. And I think that it's a good way for you to consume books while you're on the go. I think these days a lot of people are optimizing their time and trying to do things of value in their downtime. So what's downtime? You're going to work and you got a 45-minute commute to work in your car or in public transport, right? I normally listen to podcasts or music, but if you listen to a podcast, that's also entertaining. But if you listen to an audiobook, now you're learning. I mean, unless the audiobook is about fiction, which in that case, then it's just entertainment as well, which is cool too. But instead of just being bored, now you're actively doing something. Let's say you gotta clean the house. Like when I gotta do dishes, right? I put on my headphones and I go at it. I put a podcast. I put some funny videos. I put some shit, When people work out, they put music. I normally like music, but sometimes I like to put a little podcast to laugh while I'm running. So have you thought of this? Have you seen these options before for audiobooks? And maybe this way you can dwell into the reading world and, get one that you think might be interesting and then hear it instead of reading it.
I have seen these options before, referring to the one where you're like, oh, I'm doing the dishes, and then I'll put on like a video or like put on something to listen to. Listening, I can agree with, but the video, I think, kind of like detracts from you being able to focus on what you're doing. So yeah, you'll wash the dishes, but more often than not, the quality of the washing of the dishes might go down as a result of having that video up,
Okay, I mean, first of all, like, don't ever doubt about my, dishwashing skills, because that's like straight up disrespect to a man. That could have some dire consequences. So first of all. Second of all, forget about the video. What I meant is sometimes on YouTube, I go to a podcast that's video,
right?
But I just put it in my pocket and leave it on audio, because I pay for YouTube Premium. So for those people, you can actually turn off your phone and put it in your pocket, and you're still listening to the podcast, right? So I do that. I do my dishes, so I don't listen to the video. But even if I did, the quality of my dishwashing is fucking grade A top shit.
First of all, fuck you. Second, I only talk to you in reference to my own example, because I've had like Netflix on or like a YouTube video, watching and listening, and the quality of my work has gone down. At the very least, the pace will go down. Like it'll take me twice as long to do any task because I have the video and I'm watching it. So like I can only talk about my personal experience. I can't talk about your quality of work.
No, but I just mean audio, just with audio, I think, you can do things. I mean, I remember my first job was as a dishwasher at a pizzeria.
Oh, okay.
I was like 15, 16. And I used to get like mad dirty. I just had to work one day, because from Monday to Saturday, they had one guy that did everything in that store. I'm not gonna go into details, but maybe he didn't have all his papers in order. But he got paid good, right? Because he kept that shit running from Monday to Thursday. But on Sundays he had to go to church, because he was a very religious man. He was a foreigner. Well, not a foreigner. He was an immigrant, like me. Like I was an immigrant too. And then on Sundays they had me cover him for part of his duties, mainly washing the dishes, right, of the whole day. So I covered him because that day was his rest day. He went to talk to Jesus. So what I did, right? This was I think it was around like 2005. So the iPods were out. We didn't have like iPhones or any other type of shit. But you had the iPhone, the iPod.
The iPod. Wow.
And I put a bunch of like fire music, and I would go wash dishes. And for 8 hours, or like I think it was like 10 hours, because I covered the whole thing. bro, I was just like immersed in music and just doing my dishes, gangster as fuck, like leaving them things clean. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, and it wasn't all manual. I had a machine, like I just had to stack them up, but I did have to like rinse them and make sure they were all
Yeah.
stacked up together, like Tetris style. I think that's where my Tetris skills came from mainly. So what I'm trying to say with that is that was back then. We didn't even have the technology we have now. Imagine if I would have had like access to podcast, to audiobooks then, maybe I'll be in a better position. So, do you think that's something that could work for you? There is the other debate that I wanted to sort of sneak in. Is that cheating? Is it really reading it?
Yeah, that I wanted to kind of get into that, like, the whole, like, part of you reading a book is that you're seeing the words, right? You're reading them. I don't know about you. When I was reading, I would actually read the words out loud in my own head, like as I'm reading it, and that kind of adds to the whole retention of the information of the whatever you're reading at the time. So by you seeing it, by you reading it, and you're hearing it out loud in your head, you're also imagining the whole scenario. It is what I consider cheating. I would consider it kind of lazy, I guess, but at the same time, are you on the run? Like, are you, in a car? Are you driving? Are you doing something else that you can't really focus 100% of your time on the reading? Then should you even be doing it? Like,
Okay.
like
So a little bit like let's say you wouldn't have read otherwise. Like you wouldn't have consumed this reading anyways. So if I could do it audio, is that at least bringing some value? I would assume it is, right? It's better than nothing.
Right. Like, a lot of they've got into like the whole learning and how there's different aspects of learning in terms of like how you retain information. Some people are visual learners, some people are auditory learners, and this definitely appeals for an auditory learner, like the whole audiobook landscape.
So you think there's some people that this might not work for?
I would say so. Depends on who you are. Primarily women.
Mainly, what?
No. Listen, primarily women are more of the audio learning type, and
really?
primarily men are more of the visual learning type. Well, like like we've seen through biology and history and science that's the case.
I've never seen that report, but I'll believe you. I'll believe you. So, because I mean, I actually think like people can have both of those like skills, right?
Right. You do. I mean, you could learn like to listen to music and be a visual learner, but like your strength or your strong point would be more to see something versus to hear something.
Okay, so this is actually interesting because I am somebody that has been consuming podcast, and even though I like a lot of the video form, I also consume like audio when I'm on the run and shit. And I've been doing it for a long time before podcast was commercial, right? So I've been the type of personality that enjoys that type of stimulation before this was something that other people liked. And I have seen how little by little people are getting more accustomed. I mean, like people that listen to the podcast, maybe some of them are people that in the past weren't really podcast listeners, and now they have it on Spotify and they listen to it, and it's a new thing that they are enjoying, which is this audio stimulation, maybe going to work, maybe doing, so it's like more like a passive entertainment. Although it could also be direct and very, what's the opposite of passive? Aggressive.
Aggressive.
Active.
Active, I guess. Direct.
Yeah, active. Active and like just really firm and hard. I mean, we could do that too. Depending on what you're into. Like if you put the YouTube version and you see our faces and shit and the lighting and all the cuteness, I mean, that's direct stimulation.
Yeah, you can't get none of this in the
audio,
audiobooks.
right? Like for people in the audio, they're not seeing right now. DJ BJ changed the color of his face, like just going crazy, with the math. Like, so there is an added value to seeing the video. However, if you're not able to, the audio will also stimulate the right points in your body to make the things run smoothly, if you know what I mean,
right.
Ski.
And more often than not, this is where we get the whole dichotomy of the people that prefer the book over the movie, because in their head they auto generate their own idea of what should be represented on the book versus what somebody else's idea or vision is represented in the movie. Like,
Right.
People oftentimes like the strong book, like, oh, look, I prefer the book over the movie, because in their mind they had a different idea of how this thing would turn out, and then the movie director took the creative liberty of changing it around to make it more profitable, or to more to their idea of what they thought when they read the book.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, like, I'm sure there's people out there that genuinely have seen movies and they're like, fuck, I read the book and I really feel it didn't depict the imagery how it should have. Like, I think it could have been a lot better. And there's legitimate conversations for that. But 90% of it is probably fucking dumb pieces of shit that are just trying to be some mugs. It's like, the book was better.
The book was bad.
Yo, shut the fuck up, Martha. How long did it take you to read the book? 3 weeks?
3 weeks.
It took me 2 hours and a half. I saw this shit. Had some popcorn, got my dick jerked. Shut the fuck up, Martha.
But see, like, are you willing to take out 3 weeks of your time to read said book? That's where the appeal for the audiobook came in. Like, yeah, you're gonna be consuming this during the 3 weeks, the same 3 weeks, because somebody's reading it to you. But now you can be doing something else in the meantime. It's like a passive thing, like you said.
You can do it on your passive time, when you're mowing the lawn, when you're running, when you're taking your kids to school.
Right. So basically, an audiobook is like a podcast, but like of it's like a printed podcast. So a book is a printed podcast, basically. Somebody's ideas on paper.
I mean, yeah, if you wanna make the podcast word, like, open the umbrella, because to me a podcast is kind of like what we do, where we talk shit and sort of like a radio show, right?
So like an exchange of ideas.
Yeah, but it is true that nowadays, if you go to Spotify and search for podcasts, there's podcasts that are more like story forms, where people are telling stories and they use sound effects, and it's pretty cool. But to me, it's like, that's not what I search in a podcast, but they call it a podcast. But also, I don't know how you would call it, like an audio show, because it's like such a new type of thing, like this new stimulation, which is weird, right? Like, you would think audio like idea sharing and audio consumption, aside from music, would have exploded in the past, because audio is easier to transport than like video.
Right.
So it's a little like, and I also wanted to ask you, because DJ BJ is part of one of the biggest podcasts in America, Europe, and Belgium mainly. But my question is, are you somebody that enjoys and consumes podcasts, in audio form, or aside from the podcast that you participate in, you don't really have a connection to the podcast world?
I do enjoy the listening to other podcasts primarily, but I do prefer looking at them, like the visual. So I do prefer the YouTube. Like, one of my favorite ones is the Just Pearly Things. I like that one to listen to.
What was it called?
Just Pearly Things.
Okay.
Have you heard of that one, or have you seen that one? All right. It's like a girl version of Andrew Tate kind of scenario, but like a little bit dialed down. I think you've probably seen her. She's in the UK.
Okay.
Or she has guests on, and then she explains the whole feminist movement and how they've got it twisted in a certain way and whatever. Like, it just goes into that whole scenario. But like, I'll listen to it and I'll watch it mostly for the reactions of the people that are on the show. Some of the points are interesting to consider and talk about, but that's one thing. What about you? What podcast do you listen to outside of this one?
Well, outside of this one, and I actually do listen to it, because I with the editors and shit, I keep a tight ship, so I make sure the quality control is done. So I do listen to the podcast that we make. I mean, I'll tell you one that's cliche, Joe Rogan.
Okay.
But I will disclaim very douchebaggily that I've been listening to Joe Rogan, when he had like 200,000 subscribers, before podcast was a thing.
So you're a hipster. You're like,
yeah, I'm part of the OG crew. I listen to Tuesdays with Stories, which is Mark Norman and Joe List. I like their
Okay.
podcast. I listen to, man, I'm not listening to too many these days, but which else?
That's fine. I'm just like this
Yeah.
one would have been okay. But you do listen to other podcasts.
Yeah, I listen to a few on a weekly
Do
basis. Oh, the
you, do you,
Tim Dillon. But it is true that I see it most, some of them video. But when I'm in the run in the metro, I like to put it in and it's a perfect thing like for me because it's like I'm having a conversation but passively. And you know what podcast is? I figured it out the other day. I was thinking, I'm like, what is it exactly? Because at the end of the day, we're just talking, shooting the shit. So why is it that people? And I think what it is sometimes, let's say you're just in the metro, right? And for example, in Spain, right? You ride the public transport, you're in the bus or you're in your car, and let's say you had a long day of just thinking, of just doing shit, and you're kind of tired, right? Not just physically, but mentally. You put on a podcast, and it's almost like you're in a conversation with your friends, but they're doing the thinking, and you're just receiving the rewards of that conversation.
you're just consuming.
You're just consuming it. And to me, it works because I'm normally the person that likes to talk a lot when we're in a gathering. So when you're in a podcast, you kind of have to sit back and be the friend that a lot of times is quiet, just listening in. And you might think like, oh, maybe he's bored. He's like, nah, I'm just here chilling while you guys do the effort of thinking shit through, right? And then I just need to go every once in a while, like, oh yeah, that's true. And that's kind of what you. So I don't know. Do you think that's like a true depiction of what it is?
Like, oh yeah, like that's right. Like you're like you even say like when you're listening to the podcast, you're like, oh shit, you know that's
Yeah, like you
right.
do the same reply, you do the same reaction. So
Have you ever caught yourself like listening to a podcast and you're like, fuck, I want to see what this guy looks like or what this guy sounds like, or like when he said that, and like you look at it. So that being said, what audiobooks? Have you tried audiobooks before?
I've tried them, and I will say, sort of my review on that. I think it's a great tool, but I did find that because reading a book takes a lot of analysis. It's not like a podcast where you can passively listen to it. When you're reading, you have to be actively focused on what you're doing. And when you're hearing it, you also have to be actively focused as if you were reading it, but you're listening. And the thing is, I've tried it when I'm trying to do other things and use it as a passive thing. And what ends up happening is I have to rewind it because I miss things. Because even if my mind goes a little bit to one side for a second, when I come back, I have to re-listen to it. Whereas when you're in a podcast, when like if you miss something, it's like, okay, that's fine. But with a book, everything that they're reading, like it's not just shooting the shit. It's like facts. So you have to. So
I mean, not necessarily. I mean, facts if it's nonfiction, but if it's fiction, like it's just part of the story. But still, like it takes away from the story if you don't.
Like it's essential
focus.
information. It's not like when we're doing a podcast where like part of it you could miss and you'll be fine. Here, every word is like made to mean something, so you want to listen to it. So that was my only critique with it. So I just don't know where I will be able to fully be able to just listen. And if I'm in that stage, then I could just read it, you know?
So like, what about, let's say you're laying in bed and you're just chilling in your house, you're about to go to sleep, but you're kind of tired from the day, your eyes are tired. So you're like, let me just pop in this audiobook and listen to it. And just still like lay in bed, just with my headphones listening to it.
It could work.
Could it also be a compliment to actually having the book, like having the book open? And
then that is fun. That should be. I haven't tried it, but that's like fun. Where you don't have to actually say it out loud. You can just think it and go through it. I think that could work.
So I think rather than popping in an audiobook to try to learn something, incorporate it into actively physically reading.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's a better advice. But, you know, for people that listen, let us know what you think. Maybe you do audiobooks and it works for you. But for me, it felt like I needed to still dedicate full energy and focus to that thing, even if I'm doing audio form, because a book, especially the books that I like to read, is like economic concept, life philosophy. it's shit that's like very precise, and if you miss a little bit, you kind of
No, and even if you don't miss it, sometimes you have to read it like once or twice over because you're like, oh wait, I didn't get that. Let me go back a little bit, and then.
Dude, I've been trying to read a book. It's called Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell, and even reading it slowly, I have to reread it a few times because even when I'm reading, my mind goes somewhere else and I miss something that I was reading. Like, that's how crazy the mind is now, where even while you're reading, your mind can go for a particle of a second and like forget about what you were reading and then still be reading. Like, it's a crazy thing.
You know what? I think we're gonna have to start something new today.
Reading more.
Let's start a book club. Let's pick a book and we read it together and we'll review it, or we'll talk about it or something like that.
Well, I'm reading a book that is actually very easily consumable, and it's very interesting. It's called Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell. I think that's like.
Do you have it within reach?
Yeah.
Show me. Show me and show the visual listeners. Okay, and then
this is economic facts and fallacies, not basic economics. But
let me see the author. I can't see the author. Thomas Sowell. Okay.
Yeah, and this is a great book that I think we can read, and we can talk about it after. Actually, yeah, having some book reviews, and that will make us smarter. But it's not like big lettering.
Where you at with it? You just started. Okay.
I'm here. All right. Yeah. So like even when I'm reading it and I'm like taking like very focused energy to do it, I'm like, wait, what did I just read? And I have to go back to it. It's crazy. Like I really admire, and maybe this is a skill that I should have, practiced when I was younger. I really admire people that like are bookworms. Like I don't even know how they can do that. Like there was a kid when we were growing up that would like always have a book, and like he would like read a book a day, like big ass books, and we would like bully him. And he probably owns Microsoft today.
You bullied Bill Gates?
No, actually, I wouldn't bully him. I mean, I would kind of make fun of him, but I was the one that kind of was cool with him and like try to be friends at least, because I was like, if this guy goes crazy and starts shooting up the school, I want him not to shoot me. He's like, oh, you were cool with me that day, okay? But dude, this guy's probably like a genius, and like I would laugh at that, and now I'm like, this is why I'm a retard, So now I'm having difficulties like reading now and understanding. It's like, wait, what happened? because I was laughing at fucking Jimmy back in the 3rd grade.
Damn, fucking Jimmy.
But yeah, for the people at home, and well, whatever you're doing now, you might be like jogging, you might be coming out of a rave party, and you need to like get fluids in your system before you fucking collapse on the field. Tell us what you think. Do you read? What's your experience with reading? If you're a bookworm, tell us what are some of the maybe practices that you use to focus and concentrate on the reading and make it worthwhile. What do you guys think about audiobooks? Have you tried it? Do you think it's easy to concentrate while you're doing other things? And what's your general opinion about improving yourself, and different techniques that you might use yourself to make your mind a better place for ideas to grow and, for yourself to be better?
If you've never read to this point, I don't know how you've made it this far, but like and subscribe. It's one of those buttons down there.
But also use it as an inspiration. Maybe this is the time to start reading.
Start with Dr. Seuss. Yeah, that would help.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Subscribe to the thing. Peace.